So you might be up in the air as to whether or not grammar is one of those subjects that you need to continue to focus on with your student as they enter the middle school and high school years. So today I thought I would share with you what we've been using for grammar in our homeschool, both during middle school and continuing on in high school. Hey guys, and welcome back to my Practically Imperfect Life. If you've been watching for a while, you know that I currently homeschool two high school age students. Now, as a part of their English classes, we include literature, vocabulary, writing, and grammar. Grammar to me is one of those subjects that we spend a lot of time with our kids on when they're little. And that makes sense. There's so much to teach them in the English language about grammar rules. What's a noun? What's a preposition? What are quotations? Where do we use them? Should I use then or than? Do I use who or whom? The rules just add up very quickly. And anyone who's ever learned English as a second language will tell you that our grammar rules are confusing at times. So as my kids were entering middle school and then into high school, I felt like there was a real need for us to have some sort of continuous review of grammar concepts and an introduction into some more advanced grammar concepts. My end goal is that when they leave my homeschool, they are strong writers and strong speakers. And in order to be strong in those two things, they really need to have a good understanding of English grammar rules. So as my kids hit middle school and high school, I knew I wanted to find a curriculum that provided a good, solid explanation of grammar rules and how to use them, and also gave them an opportunity to do some continuous review of those concepts. So that is where Fix It Grammar comes in. Fix It Grammar is published by IEW, or the Institute for Excellence in Writing, and that's a company many of you may have already heard of or be familiar with for their writing programs. The Fix It Grammar curriculum has 6 different levels to it, or 6 books. And we started back with those books way back in middle school. Currently, my daughter as a sophomore is finishing up the 6th book, which is the final one in the series, and my son is on book 5. One thing we really like about this curriculum is that although the concepts being taught or reviewed advance from level to level, the setup of the book and the curriculum overall is very similar year to year. Each level tells a story or starts with a story. For example, my son's program for book 5 is The Frog Prince. So each week he's reading sentences from that story and making corrections to it. Over the course of the whole year, he'll have read and corrected the entire book. My daughter's doing book 6, which is again set up very similarly, but it's telling the story of The Little Mermaid. Now at the start of each week, they have pages to read or that you, the teacher, can direct teach to them, introducing one or more grammar concepts or reviewing past concepts. Here's an example from my daughter's student book. So you can see at the start of the week, here she's learning about conjunctions. It's going to explain them and give lots of different examples. It's going to tell her the things that they're going to want her to mark and fix in the assignments this week. And then on the second page, we're talking about transitional prepositional phrases. So what are those? How do we recognize them? How do we use them? And that's the start of every single week. There will either be new grammar concepts that are introduced and taught, or there will be ones that are reviewed. Now, if your student is pretty good at working independently, you could certainly just have them read those pages and come to you if there's any questions. If your student is younger, maybe like in the middle school years, you may want to use your teacher guide to help teach those concepts a little more in depth with your students. That's what we did during the 6th and 7th grade years, but as my kids hit 8th grade, they were doing most of this independently. To give you an idea on the teacher guide here, it does have a repeat of the student material, but then we do get this column on the side here, which provides additional information for us as the teacher to be able to reference as we are going through that lesson for the week. So you may choose to use the first day of the week simply to review the new concept with your student, answer questions that they might have, or have them do some of the practice work that's included on those pages. Then there are 4 daily assignments. Now in the early books, the students will only have 1 sentence a day that they will need to go in, do some markings or corrections on, and then recopy. As they move up into the higher level books, they might have several sentences a day to do. On each day's assignment, it's going to tell you what it is that they're looking for. So it tells us if there's a new vocabulary word, what exactly it is that they are to be marking on the sentences. So what are things that they need to identify, and what are corrections that they need to make. so they can actually use this as a little checklist and make sure that they have found everything that they need to correct on here. Now, the things that they're required to mark or fix can vary from day to day or week to week, depending on the grammar concept that's being taught or reviewed at that time. I do tend to see that there's some repetition in things being asked for at least several days or several weeks. I like that because that repetition to me helps them build mastery of those grammar concepts. And occasionally we'll see things kind of come back at a later time to help them review things that they may not have done for several weeks at a time. Now, once my kids have gone through and they've made all of their marks and corrections on this part of the sentence, they'll bring it to me and I will look over it, compare it to my teacher guide, and tell them if they've missed anything or if there was anything that was done incorrectly. I don't grade this. I'm not sitting there to punish them for missing a comma or a semicolon. I simply want to help them identify where they've missed something so they can make that correction. And then once they have done that, they will rewrite the sentences with all of the corrections down here at the bottom where it says rewrite it. And that's grammar. Typically, this takes my students about 15 minutes a day to get done. So it's a quick but thorough review. Now, to give you an idea of what the teacher guide looks like, these are the same pages, but in the teacher book. So again, this is what my student has in their book and then the sentence. And you can see here, these are all of the different things that they should have marked or labeled. And then it gives an explanation down below. I love the explanation down below. I've always hated it when someone has told me, well, you need to do this because that's the rule. Well, why is it the rule? Why does that have to be that way? And that's what this section gives you. For each correction or marking that's done above, it gives you the explanation behind it down below. If one of my kids misses something when they're marking the sentences, I don't simply point out what it is that they missed. I also tell them the why behind it. When you understand the why, you're more likely to use that grammar rule correctly in the future. Now, as far as which grade is a good time to start using Fix-It Grammar, that is really up to you. When my kids were in 6th grade, we started with book 2, and then they've done 1 book a year through now. So my daughter will be wrapped up with the Fix-It Grammar program at the end of her sophomore year. We certainly could have started with book 1 in 6th grade, and then she'd have 1 more year of it in her junior year. I will say that books 5 and 6 do tend to get a bit tougher. Both of my kids have noticed that the grammar concepts are a bit more thorough. There's a lot more things to identify and to mark, and they definitely have quite a few questions each week as far as if they're using something appropriately. But I like that. I want them to be challenged in order to better learn these concepts and improve their writing skills. Now, another nice feature of the Fix-It Grammar program is how affordable it is. You could choose to buy the teacher guide and the student book together as a combo kit, and then if you have additional students who are going to use the program, you can buy additional student books in future years. I believe the last time I bought a new set of this, it was only $30 for the combo student book and teacher book, which I thought wasn't a bad price at all. Time-wise, it's also really nice because we're able to get our grammar done in about 15 minutes a day at the most. And that's even with my students having the higher level books and some of the more challenging sentences to go in and make corrections too. You might ask, how do I plan to continue reviewing grammar during their junior and senior years? Well, we also utilize IEW's writing programs. And with some of the higher level writing programs, you get access to free downloadable resources, one of which is the Student Resource Notebook. And that's what I've got printed out here in this binder. It's quite a few pages thick, you can see here. Maybe. There you go. Now, I could have printed this double-sided, but I didn't. Killed a bunch of trees for this one. The Student Resource Notebook has so many cool things in it. There is a huge section that has writing concepts that they can review, but there is this big section on grammar rules. And as they're going through their assignments for writing, there are prompts on different days for them to go into the Student Resource Notebook and look up particular grammar rules, and then just review those concepts or incorporate those concepts into the writing assignment for that week. Since we plan to continue using the IEW writing programs in their junior and senior year, we will continue utilizing this Student Resource Notebook and the grammar rules that are included within it. And that's how we've continued to review and teach grammar in the middle school and high school years. I will link the Fix-It Grammar programs down below in the description box for you if you would like to check those out. Before you go, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe down below to my channel so you can be notified when I post new homeschooling and mom life content. Thanks for joining me today, everybody. Happy homeschooling.